Pas bouger! Lucas, pas bouger!
There are some moments in life that you remember long after they are over. For me, one of those moments began with something completely ordinary, a walk in the mountains with Uka. I had no idea that by the end of that day, we would be sharing a view that most people only dream about. Uka has always loved being outdoors. He doesn't need toys or complicated games to stay happy. Give him a trail, some fresh air, and enough room to run, and he's completely satisfied. Whenever we visit the mountains, he becomes full of energy and spends hours exploring everything around him. I had been paragliding for years, so Uka was familiar with the routine. He had watched me prepare countless times, and little by little, he became more interested in what happened after I left the ground. He would stand nearby and watch the glider rise, following it with his eyes until it disappeared into the distance. Eventually, I started asking myself a question. What if Uka could see the mountains the way I saw them? It was an exciting thought, but I knew it had to be handled carefully. Uka's safety was far more important than my curiosity. If he was ever going to fly with me, I needed to make sure he was comfortable with every part of the experience. We started by making the equipment familiar. Uka spent time around the glider while it was still on the ground. He walked around it, sniffed everything, and watched the fabric move whenever the wind picked up. I also introduced him to a secure harness and allowed him to wear it during our walks. There was no rush. Over time, Uka became completely comfortable. He stopped treating the equipment as something unusual and started seeing it as part of our normal mountain trips. Whenever I began preparing, he would come over immediately. That was a good sign. After months of preparation, we finally found a day when everything was right. The weather was calm, the sky was clear, and the wind was gentle enough for the flight we had been preparing for. We traveled to the Alps together. Uka seemed to know that something different was happening. He ran ahead during the climb, explored the mountain paths, and kept returning to my side. Once we reached the launch area, though, he became calm. I carefully secured his harness and checked everything one final time. Then we moved toward the launch point. The glider caught the wind. We started running, and suddenly the mountain disappeared beneath us. We were flying. I looked at Uka immediately. Instead of fear, I saw curiosity. He looked out toward the mountains, watching the valleys and peaks spread across the horizon. The wind moved around us, but he stayed close and completely relaxed. I had imagined that I would spend the flight enjoying the scenery. Instead, I spent most of the time watching him. There was something incredibly peaceful about his reaction. Uka wasn't trying to understand the strange experience. He wasn't worried about how high we were. He was simply living in the moment, and that made me think about trust. Animals don't need complicated explanations to trust us. They judge us by the way we treat them every day. Every walk, every meal, every moment of care, and every time we protect them builds that trust. That flight was simply the result of all those little moments. Eventually, we began our descent. As the ground came closer, I realized how quickly the experience had passed. Soon we landed safely, and Uka immediately started exploring the grass. He sniffed around, wagged his tail, and looked completely satisfied. I laughed because he seemed more interested in what was happening on the ground than what had just happened in the sky. But that was Uka. He didn't need to make the moment dramatic. He simply enjoyed it. And perhaps that's the biggest lesson he has given me. We often wait for huge experiences to make us happy, while animals find happiness in things that are already around them. A walk, a breeze, a familiar face, a new place to explore. Uka doesn't worry about whether tomorrow will be better than today. He simply enjoys today. That's why the flight became more than an adventure for me. It reminded me that the best memories aren't always created by doing something extraordinary. Sometimes they're created because you shared an extraordinary moment with someone who means everything to you. Uka may never understand why that day was so important to me, but whenever I think about the mountains, I remember him beside me, looking peacefully into the distance while the world passed beneath us. And I know I'll never forget the little dog who showed me that even the sky can feel like home when you're sharing it with your best friend. If Uka's story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more touching and inspiring animal stories.